have you realized that there is a lot of like mentorship programs for women, but there are not mentorship programs for men? It's like
Yes. Parental leave, cool. I'm gonna take 3 months off and I'm gonna go take a really cool course in Harvard because the company is paying for it.
it's so old, but it's so dominant, unfortunately.
Yes.
It sounds like there's a lot of conformism when it comes to approaching the problem. You know, you just like look at the problem and you see it and it's like, well, they don't apply. They don't come to us.
Stop expecting higher level of things from women that you don't expect from men.
Should we push back against that narrative of more masculine energy?
Yes, please.
This is Create What Matters.
Hello everyone, welcome to Create What Matters. I am Leti.
And I'm Ale, and together we're here to ask uncomfortable questions.
So you can find your most authentic answers.
And today we're diving into a topic that drives us and remains an ongoing battle in many spaces, women in power. This is our edition in March, and we're very excited for the guest that we have today that will be sharing her expertise and her story.
So what does it really mean to have power in the professional world? How do we exercise it? And what happens when power meets technology, a field historically dominated by men?
So to explore this topic, we have a guest who has turned her mission into a global platform for transformation.
She is Laura Fernandez. Thank you so much for coming.
Hi,
Welcome,
thanks
Laura.
for having me.
Thank you, Laura.
Here.
She's the founder and CEO of allwomen, a school created by and for women who are revolutionizing the world of technology.
Thank you, Laura, for being here with us. First of all, you have this amazing project, All Women. Could you please tell us what is the project about? How long have you been working on this? And yeah, what is the main mission and the main purpose of All Women now?
Awesome. All right. So all this story started 6 years ago, probably 7. And this is sort of like a aha moment, right? So I went with my co-founder, that it wasn't my co-founder at that time, right? To a tech conference in Barcelona. And we were sitting there, like listening to the different speakers, and all of them were men. Surprise, not surprise, right?
Yeah.
And we were like, what? Like, we know many women that work in tech that are doing like amazing things. How is that possible, right?
Yeah.
And because of this precise moment, and because at that time we were working in programs mixing technology and entrepreneurship, we realized that we had to put the lens of gender within that future project that then became All Women, right? So it was this very like aha moment where we thought that we needed to fight against a reality that we were observing in our own city, in our own ecosystem, right? And then exploring and going beyond, we saw that reality was taking all over the world and all over the industries and different territories in the world, let's say.
For sure.
And what is your personal journey? Where is your background and what got you into going to that tech event? And how did All Women start after that?
Yeah, so that's also like an interesting story. So my background is in media, so I don't come from technology. I was working in film festivals around Europe. That was like a long time ago now. I guess around 10 years probably. And then I came back to Barcelona and I decided that I want to stay a bit longer in my city. And then because I was away for a while, I started looking around what has happened in that time. And a friend told me, like, there is this group of people that organize events for entrepreneurs in the creative industries. And I was like, okay, I know about creative industries because I'm in the film industry. I know nothing about entrepreneurs, but let's find out, right? So I joined that group of people. We start organizing those events. I start to connect with the culture or the ecosystem of entrepreneurs and startups that for me, I don't know, they existed, that it was a thing for me. Like people creating companies were like, company makers, executives, like big loads of money, going to newspapers and all these traditional, right? Like
Business
going to
roles, like
business school,
suits.
MBA, blah, blah, blah. And for me, that was it, right? But now all of a sudden, I discovered that there is another way of creating companies that is very global, that is like purpose driven, that is very international, and it can happen from a laptop, from a co-working space, right? And I was like, what?
Yeah, like a complete breaking that stereotype of how to build a business.
Yeah, and so I connected a lot with all this new ecosystem that I just like discovered, and this is how I met my co-founder Cecilia Tam, who is the creator of Makers of Barcelona. That was one of the first co-workings in Spain, actually. And then again, like I fall sort of like in love with all the people that is there, like from all over the world, creating like all sorts of projects. And I was like, okay, this is my new place, right?
Yeah.
And then I said, like, I want to work here. And she was like, okay, come tomorrow and let's have an interview, right? And then I had an interview and she just like made up, and I was like, I really want to work here. So she just made up like a job, you know, for me.
She
like,
created
okay,
a job for you.
Yeah, start working here. Like, you are very annoying. Start working here. And that was like 4 years, and we worked together at Makers of Barcelona, developing these like projects, like mixing education, technology, entrepreneurship, and this is how I became part of the startup ecosystem and entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Barcelona. And then connecting that story with that talk, then All Women was born, right? Because we were like, as I said, like working in educational projects, mixing with technology. We went to the conference, we saw there were like no women there, and we said, okay, let's put that ingredient as the main ingredient for this that we want to change. And this is how All Women was born, basically.
Amazing. And how long have you been in existence so far?
6 years. I
6
think
years.
unofficially probably it's like 7-ish, you know,
Okay.
because you create the company, but
The
then
MVP,
you are
yeah.
like working at the same time and all of that.
You're transitioning.
Yeah, you are
Yeah.
transitioning, exactly. But fully there, it's been 6 years. Yeah, 6 years. 6 years, it seems like a lot of time, but at the same time, it just went just like that. And
really
so
fast.
many things happened, but it seems that I started yesterday, right?
Yeah, so maybe like dog years. It seems like a lot happened, and at the same time, you feel it was really fast.
Super fast, super fast.
And also something that I'll start our podcast with is now that you have shared your story and the story of All Women, what matters to you the most at this moment in your life?
That's a very profound question, and I guess it can go from personal to professional, and I guess that I'm gonna mix
That's
both
fine, of
because
course,
I
yeah.
think it's how it is. All Women already has like a global impact, and we see it. Like numbers tell us this, but also when I talk, you know, to the different students and our graduates and our collaborators as well, like because they are all connected there because they believe and they connect with the mission of All Women, which is transforming not only women in technology, but, you know, women in general and how we lived in this world. But for me, what it would change everything would be like companies, like the public and the private, they truly believe on that, and we start seeing real action and real change. And I guess we will talk more about this later. I mean, since we started up to today, like I see evolution, I see transformation, I see commitment from these organizations, like public and private, but still, I think at this time we could be like farther beyond,
Yeah.
but because there is a lot of like conversation and lacking action, we are where we are right now. So for me, like responding to your questions would be like real commitment from public and private organizations to really shift the situation we're here right now.
And
Yeah.
can you tell us about the numbers since the 7 years? Like how many women are we talking about and how many different courses that you have right now running?
Yeah. So we have a global community. There is around 30,000 women, which is, for us, is huge. We are a bootstrap.
It's amazing, yeah. 6 years, 30,000 women.
Organization. Like we made everything with love and passion and reinvesting everything, every cent we were winning. And I think that happened because what we were doing was like real and was like resonating to half of the population.
Well,
because when we talk about like minorities, like excuse me, yeah, but it's
Yeah.
half
It's
of the
not a
population.
minority. It's less represented. It's
Yeah.
different.
Exactly,
Yes.
it's half of the population, right? So I think there was a space there to have those conversations,
Yeah.
and that's why I think that is took and help us like grow that much in that time. But of course, in that community, there is like different layers of proximity and communication, right?
For sure.
And then we have our students that are like the closest one, and our collaborators and instructors. So this is like the first circle. So here, for instance, we have trained around 2,000 women, I would say, at this point, right?
Yeah.
And then we have like a very nice network and pool of experts of around 200 female experts that, you know, when they say like, we have like a hard time to invite women to conferences, like we don't know them. It's like,
Oh my
come on,
gosh.
how is that possible?
Exactly.
Like all my collaborators, all my instructors are all female. Like,
We're hiding, right? We're
yeah, it's like, why just make the effort? Just don't call your colleague, you
Yeah.
know, or your mate.
Yeah.
Just like look a little bit beyond, right? So
Yeah.
so yeah, a little bit of the numbers there.
And when we talk about representation in companies in tech, we know that there's a lot of statistics regarding how much women still don't make up the numbers. But what are the gaps that the data doesn't show? Because I know that one thing is the percentages, and another thing is like what actually happens and the root cause of those women not being able to either continue or reach higher positions even. And it's like you have, of course, you don't have a lot of representation in tech, but even less into C-level positions and growing in the company. So what is the data hiding and what's behind it? And what are the stories that you've heard?
Yeah, I think, and this is a piece of data, but it's so visual, right? So I think like companies, they are always like talking and focusing on recruiting,
Yeah.
on attracting,
Yeah.
like I want to hire the women, but they are not there. I want to hire the women, but they don't apply to our job position. It's like there is always like they suffer a lot because this is not happening to them.
Yeah.
But they should be focusing on retention because you have women in your company that you could probably upskill, reskill, and all of a sudden they could be like working on your tech teams, right? So and there is this data that I read on a report from McKinsey that for me was like, wow, 56% of women working in technology in the tech sector leave the sector at the midpoint of their career.
Yeah.
While men is like at 15%, something like this. It's like more of the half of the ladies, they are leaving mid of their career. So you have like a very specific, clear problem here to work on. Of course, you want to have more women like coming in, but like focus on the ones that you already have on the team, right?
Yeah.
And this also links with this being the only one, right? Because like we have like there is this pipeline problem, right? Like they don't apply, then I don't retain them, and then you only have like one lady working in the tech team, and all of a sudden this is just one. She cannot mentor, she cannot like help others, attract other women. So all of a sudden you create this like loneliness and only effect because there is only a few there.
Yeah. So I have this example of I worked on a project in a very big manufacturing company in Brazil, and then we were analyzing a few exactly that there was a lot of women getting in the base, which is very common, and actually people don't know this, but around the 70s there were a lot of women working in university in tech positions, but they would never remain. They were kicked out at some point because of the environment that would develop. And then one of the things that we learned is that these women were being hired, but for example, some of them were working on the floor of the industry and there were no women's bathroom. There were only men's bathroom and there was only one women's bathroom and it was very far away. So the conditions for them to work there started being like precarious in a way and was intended for because they were literally less represented and minority in the company at some point. No one looked at beyond what they needed. And then the second thing was they had to wear some specific clothing and the clothes were not tailored to their size as well. So they would leave because of that. So it was like all of these like small things that would add up and would make women not want to stay in the company and not want to continue. And I think that those are very sensitive things that sometimes people don't even notice, and they say like it's I don't know, we call it mimimi in Portuguese, which is like you're complaining a lot, but it's not. It's like basic human needs that sometimes are overseen.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, I think those things are happening today, but in a different shape, right?
Exactly.
Like bathrooms are there,
Yeah.
right? But
So
then all of
hopefully-
a sudden, like, have you realized that there is a lot of like mentorship programs for women, but there are no mentorship programs for men? It's like,
Yes.
excuse me, how is that?
Yeah.
You know, it's like
That's true.
like we are missing like the sponsorship programs for women.
Exactly.
Like when you have like the men in power, because they are the one in power, take the women and bring them with you up to the
Exactly.
up to the scale. Like then there is a lot of like informal socialization, right? That maybe like women are like put besides, either because this space is not communicated to them, or because they have to take care of like duties at home.
Yeah.
So there is all these like things that happen in an informal and not even unconscious, like consciously, but in an informal format that also leave women behind.
Laura, do you think we're too focused on the pipeline problem and perhaps missing the real structural issues? Do you think there are perhaps also some conversations that we should stop having and then other ones that we should be talking about instead when it comes to the realities of women in tech?
Yeah, I think it's very related to what we were saying, because they talk about the pipeline issue, but there is another concept called the leaky pipeline, right? So it's related to that, like women leaving the industry. So you have them there, and because there is no real like parental leave or parental balance, or you don't have like a sponsorship promotion, and you don't have reskilling opportunities, women leave.
Yeah.
And instead, and I think we should be focusing on that,
On fixing that.
fixing that, and instead of saying on putting that on women, like they don't apply to us. Why they don't apply?
Yeah.
Like they haven't trained. Why they haven't trained? Why they don't have the coding skills that we need in our super senior department?
Position, yeah.
Yeah, instead of saying like maybe we can have training programs within our companies. Maybe we can have other ways of hiring.
Yeah.
Instead of no, we only want senior that come from engineering and IT universities, and they have all been going together to the same university. Come on, yes. Like if you do this kind of a segmentation, of course you are gonna have like a pipeline problem, right?
Yeah.
But then let's broader the way we create that pipeline, and I'm sure you won't have this pipeline problem. And also, let's focus on the ladies we have already in the company, how we help them to.
Yeah. It sounds like there's a lot of conformism when it comes to approaching the problem. You know, you just like look at the problem and you see it, and it's like, well, they don't apply, they don't come to us, so oops, you know, there's nothing we can do. Let's cross our arms and we're just like sigh and move on. Instead of saying, you know, like you're saying, what is happening? Why are they not looking at like pushing beyond and really understanding how to flip the problem around?
Yeah, for us, I think one, because we are women. Two, because we are like connected to issues happening in the world, and I think like we are educated and we understand so many things, and we have an interest, so we know the concepts, we know the theories, but there is a lot of like unconsciousness in all of that, right? So I know like a lot of like organizations and individuals within organizations, they don't do it precisely in purpose, you know? It's just because it's systemic. The way we've been educated, the way we've been socialized, like us women and they men, and like everyone has been socialized in a way that you just like act as you have been taught, right?
Yeah.
So
It's
if you don't
normalized.
get like confrontation, if you don't, and because the system is actually shaped to work for you as a white man, then for you everything is fine, right? Because everything is working for you. But
exactly.
like a lot of the times they don't even do it in purpose. They just like
Don't realize.
It's
don't
unconscious,
realize.
yeah.
It's unconscious. So I think there is like an opportunity here to do education and training in that regard, in that direction. And then once people is like aligned and educated, then we can start doing more profound changes.
Yeah.
Because otherwise can create a little bit of as well like confrontation and reaction, right? So I was having a conversation today with a company, and they were explaining me that, right? Because we went there and we tell them like, you need to hire more women, and they were like, why, like, and then they were asking us, okay, can you help us maybe create like a training so everyone is on the same page? And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Which is the education that you're talking about, that is necessary to make
Yeah.
these things that are unconscious conscious.
And I also think that there's so one of the things that happened a lot, I used to work for Unilever, and they were one of my clients. And I remember that it was a big time where it was a huge discussion around equal parental leave.
Yeah.
And then one of the movements that started happening, because there was no education on why parental leave was important for both women and men, and how men should pick up the slack and half of the work when women were also just given birth. What would happen is that, and this became a trend actually in Sao Paulo for a while, which was women would take their parental leave to take care of the children, and men would take that time to study. So they would come back more educated, and the women would come back tired because they were just tending to the children.
And left behind.
Yeah.
So I remember going into Unilever, and they had actually a childcare system. They could take your child to work, but you would only see women with strolls and with children. I would never see a man with a child there. Every day in the morning, there were always the women bringing in. So I think that if you don't educate from the base, and if you don't even educate, not necessarily in companies, but like boys when they are at school, understanding the biases that they create from an early age, they are going to get to a point where like, parental leave, cool, I'm going to take 3 months off, and I'm going to go take a really cool course in Harvard because the company is paying for it. And I'm going to come back rocking it, like ready to climb that ladder. And you're like, what the fuck?
Right, then the disparity grows even further.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that point that you mentioned, like embedding already this consciousness within the curriculums in schools is like basic.
Critical,
so you grow up already with an understanding of how the world actually works and privilege works. And then, if one day you have like a family, you can support properly and have like a fair agreement and management of the situation.
Yeah.
There's this recurring narrative also as of late, and we've seen this come from some leaders in the tech space in the US, especially around that there's a need for more masculine energy to thrive. And I'm really curious to know, what do you make of that? It's an outdated concept, or is there something to it? What is your take?
It's so old, right? It's so old, but it's so dominant.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
yes, right?
I want to say two things. One is like a bit probably not pessimistic, but is a reality, and the other one is going to be optimistic, right? But I think because actually corporate environments are so testosteronical and masculine. This all masculinity, because also there is new masculinities today, that don't connect with this being super testosteronical and assertive and aggressive and all of that, right? But because I think the systems, companies, societies, governments, they are all built this way.
Yeah.
Women that want to arrive to that point, they need to assimilate, so behave in that way, in order to reach those points.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, which it doesn't make sense, but it's they find the only way to proceed.
Yeah.
But then if you observe women that have reached those kind of companies, so for instance, I remember the CEO of YouTube, the CEO of PayPal, they are all female. The Prime Minister of New Zealand, all of these were women that at some point, the CEO of Facebook, right? At some point they left. And I was always questioning why they left. They left because they wanted. They left because it was very masculine, very toxic, and they had enough. Why is that, right?
Yeah.
So I think there is something there that is not right.
Yeah.
And I think we should be changing this right now, and then we can talk on what are the values and personalities that can really foster a business and innovation there. But at the same time, we have many studies and research that say that when we have like female in leadership, the return of investment, the growth and everything is always like higher than if we're comparing to, men-led businesses.
There's data behind it.
So there is the data there.
Yeah.
But the space is occupied by men. And they don't want to, share. But for me, it would be like, just create more space, right?
Yeah.
Let's co-lead the thing. Let's share the power.
Exactly.
Let's share the power. But no, it's like the power wants to remain
Yeah.
in a specific kind of people. But there is all this data behind. So I think that exists. That is a reality. I don't think it really makes sense. It doesn't prove anything. I mean, if we look at the world today, is the world we know. The world could be better. I believe it could be like a much better place. So, I mean, I think there is time and space to find different systems and different leaderships. And there is data that is proving that that is. So how we go from here.
Should we push back against that narrative of more masculine energy?
Yes, please. I mean, it doesn't work. It doesn't help. Like,
Yeah. We've been here and we know that it doesn't work right. So I think that when people think about tech, they think about usually a man in front of a computer in a hoodie coding. But we know that there's much more to tech than that. So I know that it's a huge umbrella, but in your opinion, what are tech skills? And more than that, what are the skills that you see women bringing to technology that can change completely the scene, and that maybe if we were just to see men there, we wouldn't see these changes happening?
So for instance, when you look at the field of UX, UI design, product management, even science, because all of these areas are very connected to, they are human centered.
Yeah.
So UX, UI design, of course, is everything about like understanding the user and having this empathy and having this conversation. So I think that's why women thrive there. When you look at product management is about like managing stakeholders. It's having this like holistic view and capacity. And I think we are like very good at this. That's why I think we thrive there. And science as well, because science in the end exists to find solutions to problems that humans have, right?
Yeah.
And we're very connected with everything that is like human centered. When I think men are just disconnected about what is maybe not that radical, but I think
Or less connected.
or less connected is more appropriate. Thank you. But we're very good at these fields, and there are like different women that are thriving in those areas. That being said, the CTO of OpenAI is a woman.
Yeah.
And she is amazing. And so there are like also like women
Great examples.
thriving in pure hard tech as we understand it, right?
And what would you say are different areas of tech? Maybe project management, that you say UX and UI, but what are other areas in tech that we are training women now, and the skills that are needed in those areas?
There is something that is very interesting that one of our collaborators was telling me, and this is linked to what I said, like that women, we are more connected with that what is human-centric, which is ethics in AI. So she was explaining me there are like for so many years there have been this movement of like AI in ethics, and it's very populated by women.
Yeah.
Because we care, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, AI is mainstream, is taking all over. It's not the future, it's just the present.
Yeah.
And we happen to be already there in that segment of AI, which is ethics and governance.
Yeah.
So for the first time, we are like there before them. Well, it's not for the first time. Like many times we are before, but then just they take over, right?
Yeah.
But at least now, they are not taking over yet, and we like women are very well positioned in that sphere. Also, I didn't know that, but it also makes sense in the area of cybersecurity. You wouldn't say that, but because it's all related with like open source communities and stuff like that. And again, it's very connected to be connected with humans, right? Even though it's in a digital environment.
Yeah.
There is good examples of women like thriving in cybersecurity. I didn't know that, but I just learned about it. And,
That's a surprising fact.
Yeah, and it made sense to me,
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
So I am going to teach at Elisava at AI and Ethics Masters, and it's a class of all of women.
Right, you see?
Yeah, it's just women in the class, which is amazing. So I think it's...
Which is amazing. Again, no, it repeats a certain kind of like characteristics and models why
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
care and men care less.
Yeah.
No, how is that, right?
Right,
It's interesting.
we want to create a better world with these a very interesting piece of technology, but also understanding the risks and challenges and the counterparts that these entail. So we want to have these conversations and also look at those risks and put those solutions or have some conversations around that, right? So
Yeah.
we can cover that as well.
But you just say it very natural, and I'm sure probably we were having a conversation with a guy, maybe we said, no, we are looking at the opportunities of hypergrowth with generative AI, we can create, that
Yeah.
would be like the narrative.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be completely
Which is, I guess the masculine side of growth, the performance.
hyper,
Yeah.
yeah.
When the other hand is like, wait, but at what cost?
Yeah.
What is the cost? Who is going to do that? Who is going to be affected? What is going to be the gap of
Claro.
people that don't have the skills or don't speak the language? How do we make this actually an accessible tool for everyone to use? So on and so forth, right? And in this sense, talking about measuring success and leadership in the tech space, are we measuring? Do we have the wrong metrics to measure leadership? And what do metrics actually matter to build resilient and forward-thinking teams? What do you think?
I think we should be talking about collaboration, communication, critical thinking, leadership from an inclusive and diverse way. I think we should be talking about the capacity of like helping people to grow, about having like wellness, right? Like mental safety, physical safety, like can we talk about all those things at work? And I think this is missing right now
Yeah.
because the structure we have created is very traditional and old with the ancient male values.
Yeah.
But I think, we all will benefit from that. Like all of us, not women. Like entire organizations will benefit if we were like shifting the kind of metrics and skills, right? We were saying hyper growth, but we would be talking about like sustainability and growing in a sustainable way, having a real impact, and that is not measured by revenues or
CACs
or
or
margins or ROI or what is ROI for us, right?
Right.
And I think we're very focused in all of that, and it's proving that it's not working, right? That is obsolete.
Yeah. Again, that's another obsolete part of this conversation. It needs to evolve and change.
Instead of like maybe like satisfaction of our employees, the retention of our employees, if they feel happy.
Exactly, the
working.
happiness. That's why many companies also are hiring CEOs of happiness.
Yeah, are they happy? Are they engaged? Are they motivated? How long they stay with us?
Exactly, the retention.
They recommend other colleagues to come and work with them. Like there are so many other metrics that also, if you think about it, they could have like a direct impact on the revenues, on the growth, and so forth, because you are being like much more efficient with your resources and everything, and people are happy.
Happy people stay in companies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you create happy companies and healthy companies.
And better talent, you can retain them. Yeah, it seems like such an obvious statement, but but when you open the door and go out in the world, it's not a reality.
So, Laura, you talked about the 2,000 women that you trained here, the 30,000 women that are connected globally. Do you have any stories that resonates with you and you would like to share about women that have gone through the training and now are in different positions? And I don't know, something that has inspired you or that you kept in your heart? Because I know that sometimes that's the best thing for us to move forwards, right?
Yes, like when you see the transition of these women, that they weren't coming from this technical background, but they didn't have like the coding skills, but they have many other skills, right? They have the persistence, they had the resilience, they had the risk taking, they had all of that. We just like put them there like a curriculum and a little bit of a structure to make them feel confident and then open doors, right? So, and there is these profiles that I really like, because when you give them this like technical layer, let's say, or technical skills, they become like super profiles, right? So for instance, I think about that woman, that she was a lawyer, and then she learned data science, and all of a sudden she was hired to work as a data legacy specialist at a company, right? So actually she mixed her own background with tech, and then she became a super specific profile.
Data scientist in a very needed
with
area.
legal background, right?
Yeah,
So it
very
was-
like she created her own cocktail basically.
yeah, and very niche and very demanded actually.
Yeah.
So I remember another lady, she had a background on linguistics, and again, you say like languages, very analogical.
AI directly, or like
That was pre all this boom of generative AI and all of that, but it was the moment already like chatbots were starting. So she joined a company
Language
to create
processing. Yeah,
natural
of
language
course.
processing. So now all of this is very normal and very natural, but at that time, at the very beginning of All Women, because of the moment of the technology, it wasn't that obvious.
Yeah.
So we were seeing those transitions. I remember another person, also like a linguistic, she did like data science and became a developer, and she is all like thriving. Another story that also I love it, and we love in at All Women, is like when we have worked with companies, because there are companies that they want to make a difference, and they say, okay, let's do it. Yeah, like I want to do it with you. Help me do it. We've worked with Travel Perk for a couple of times where the CEO told me like, okay, like I want to have more diversity in my technical teams. That's it. Like I want to do it. Help me do it, right? So what we did is like we select a group of women. We train them in software engineering, and then they were hired by the company. And so we help them to increase the diversity in their teams in a 20% in the first year. But then the success of the program was like super high. Like the ladies were like super integrated in the teams, retention 100%, blah blah blah. That we did like a second edition with them, and again we increased diversity by another like 30% within their technical teams.
That's cool.
And that created like an effect, because then other companies start seeing that.
That's possible.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, they are doing it. It has happened. Now I'm interested. Now I want to do it.
It's all about having that case. Sometimes you need someone that can, like, I usually say, give food for whoever is asking it, and then use that as much as you can as a case for others. Because if there's something that works, is jealousy. And it's like looking at yourself and say, like, I want that. Can I have it?
And nobody wants to take the first the risk. But then if somebody has done it, and okay. So now this is opening doors for us to do more kind of these projects. And it is like a great opportunity for ladies. Because of course it's like all sponsored by the company, then they get to work for the company and everything. So this is a real like training and hiring project and opportunity for them, and the retention is like 100%.
Wow, amazing. Laura, if you had to break a one spoken rule about women in tech, what would that rule be?
I think it would be two. So one, stop expecting higher level of things from women that you don't expect from men, right? So having this double standard. Bye. I'm fed up of like this double standard.
That's a good one, yes.
And the second one, stop assuming that being in favor of diversity is lowering the bar, because diversity is being proven that brings more growth and better results, right? But sometimes I think there is this belief that okay, now because we want to have more women and more other diversity groups, we are gonna lower the bar, and there is this narrative there, you know?
Yeah, that it impacts the company negatively, or that it's just not.
And impacts the new people that you are hiring for the company that are those women, and all of a sudden they feel that. And they have sorry for them, and because they have been hired because they are women.
Not like charity or
and
like
there is a lot around it.
The charity thing is there, still there, and
kind of like subtle, but like we're like doing you a favor, not because
the charity thing is a bit there, still in there, unfortunately.
Yeah, in the air.
We're doing a favor, as you said, like it's. And if we had to look at a company or an organization, and not think about fixing it, but building it from the ground up. Like an utopia kind of like DEI type of company, like diversity, equity, and inclusion? What would that look like?
For me, what it would look like, we don't need to have these diversity policies because we have kosher power, right? So we have different kinds of people in power positions, and from that diversity cascades in an organic way. This is my dream, right? But I think we should like aim to that.
To do that, yeah.
And I would love a moment that we don't need to speak about diversity policy because it's just like embedded in the DNA of everything, and any kind of like group and societal group.
That's actually bringing me to the question of maybe you already answered what I wanted to ask you is, what is one radical shift that you would like to see in the industry in the upcoming years? What is something that you just want to, well, I guess you want to forget about, or that you want to see as a massive change? What would that be?
For me, like what I said, like that we kosher power, for me is like very, very powerful because from that everything changes.
Yeah.
But then if we want to be specific and what it would change if that was the scenario, I would love to see that there is like pay transparency. So, you don't need to argue or make, strategies because like pay is just like transparent. There is like equal parental leave everywhere in all countries. We have like mental health policies, and why not happiness?
Happiness would be nice, wouldn't it?
Policies.
Yeah.
There is no, bias on the recruitment. There is no double standards, like all of this. Something that I wanted to add that maybe it's not linked to this, but it's connected to this like parental leave situation that I wanted to mention earlier. I've read about this lately and I was like, wow, this is so true. So I want to share it.
Yeah, definitely.
There is this double standard where like a man and a woman, they leave to take care, like for parental leave. When she comes back to work, she's just like penalized because she has been away for all this time and she wasn't being ambitious enough. But men, when they return, mostly if they are like in leadership positions, it's like he's a father now. There is a fatherhood recompensation, and they put it on LinkedIn like I'm a father of two in Twitter and X now. There is like a celebration when men have a kid and they come back, and women, they are just like penalized. Why you left? You are not ambitious enough. So
when they were the ones that had the baby and just put in the effort.
Maybe, I don't know if that's linked, but I read about this like recently, and I think this is something we should all be aware of and put in this like new scenario of koshering power and koshering everything, right?
Absolutely.
I think one of the things that I think about a lot is that we're going through a moment where, in general, we need more children in the world.
This is true.
So our pyramid basically is inverting in a lot of places, right? And they want women to have, or families, in this case not women, to have children. But at the same time, women are learning more about what it actually takes and not romanticizing anymore motherhood. They want to have the babies at the time that they want to have it. They want to have their own careers. I am one, for example, that I don't even know if I want one. So I think that those things are playing against a lot of countries and economic scenarios because women are having less children. We're in a lot of countries, you don't have the number anymore to replace the current scenario and situation, which is 2.3 children per family. So you don't have that numbers. In Spain, you don't have it. No. I think Brazil didn't have it last year as well. I know that Japan, for example, is doing apps. The government is doing an app to help people have sex and have children. Yeah. And there's match. So when we talk about those like parental leaves and co-parenting and sharing all of those responsibilities, it also comes from this structural need of like, if you want women to have more children and if you want them to actually want a family, you got to start giving them the benefits and also realizing all of the effort that there is to having children in general, because it's not an easy task. We romanticize motherhood too much and too long, right?
I was thinking about this today before coming to the podcast, and I was thinking like about my friends. Like I don't have kids and mainly because of that, because it's like, okay, no, I know what it means, like, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was thinking about like many of our collaborators and women that are around, all women. And I wouldn't say like the majority of them have kids, I think it's the other way around, and because there is all women that, yes, but they want to succeed, they want to, or maybe not even, it's like, I don't want to take
the responsibility
because the way the system is built, I know it's gonna punish me, so I decided not to do it. And related to that, I read something, so 100%, like, if we want to reverse the situation, like, public and private, they need to work around this. And there was like another thing that I read in this McKinsey study, that there was that company that they implemented work from like whatever you want, and all of a sudden leadership in female increased like a 50%, because all of a sudden they could balance their life. So there's also this belief of like, women are less ambitious, women, they don't want to take the leadership position. Wait, hold on. Maybe if we have the system put in place, if we are compensated, if we are, like the normal things that you would want it to be a leader, with like healthy situation, things would change, right? And that was seen in that company. So, I mean, there is like a lot of things that that we could be doing, that companies could be doing, and that would make like a massive and direct change. I think it's just a matter of being a bit bold, being brave,
or taking a step, taking action.
Just being a bit brave. Don't even mean like to put money or whatever, because money is always an issue. Just be brave, and you will see.
So one of the things before we wrap up that I wanted to talk about is that not all women have the same needs, right? And I think that this is something very important when you're talking about inclusivity and when you're talking about equity and diversity, which is the needs of white women from Europe are different than the needs from trans women, that are different from the needs of black women that come from other places, indigenous women, women of color. All kinds of needs are very, very, very different. We come from different backgrounds, and not everyone needs the same push. Not everyone needs the same support. Some need more, some need less, and some need in some ways and in others. And I think an example of this is, I usually talk about the fact that for a long time, white women specifically wanted to go back to working and being recognized in the workplace. But for example, black women have been working their whole lives. What they wanted was better conditions of study so they could get in other places of life, and also being recognized for the space that kind of like they already have, and maybe even rest, I don't know, because we have a lot of women, and especially poor and vulnerable women, in situations where they have worked their whole life. How do you interpret intersectionality, and how is All Women dealing with that?
Yeah, I think that's a very important subject to tackle, and we have conversations around this. However, it's difficult as well to manage, right? As you said, women have different privileges and different layers of oppression according to different demographics, right? So we always try to be conscious and acknowledge all these like different layers that have an impact and shape us, and how the world and the society and organizations play around us, with us, regarding this, right? So the way we try to acknowledge this is by making this visible and public, right? So, and that's something we were talking with the team, that when you say all women, it would sound not that inclusive, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And we were like, oh, why? But this is, why? I know.
That's the branding.
But that's the name of the brand. Now how we do it, right? And then, so what we try to do then is like, okay, then let's be vocal about it. Like, okay, this is the name of the brand. It says all women. What is for us all women? So for us, all women is like, is trans women, is non-binary individuals, is like the LGBTQ plus community, is like all minorities in the end. It's all entitles all for everyone that feels that, that diversity and inclusion, that there is oppression, that privilege works in a different way. So basically, there are not like the norm and the status quo. they are part of our community, and we try as often as we can to be vocal about it and communicate about it. And so actually last week we had a panel discussion, and we invited to different women from our community from very diverse backgrounds. So we had Kax she's from the Philippines, and then we have two Daniels actually that they are Afro-American, and then we had Alice that she is from the LGBTQ plus community. So we were having a conversation around all these areas and how we find each other within, right? And something we agree on, or that we was like the final conclusion of the event, is like, let's be aware of all these like layers of privilege, and from the position you are today, see how you can bring and help and have like a positive impact in your community, in your close circle. What it doesn't mean, maybe it's with your neighbor, right? But from our position, there is always something that we can do about it. And I think this is a very positive message that is like action, is very action oriented, let's say, right? So we try to be, as like responding to your question, we try to be like very vocal and aware, and putting all these people out there, so we can have these open conversations. Yes.
And you also have sponsorships. You sponsor a lot of women in those projects. You have not sponsorship, it's
like a scholarship.
Scholarships, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, there is always like, those collectives are always a priority for us, because I said it's like there is like extra layers that you have there yet that you need to, like
to tend to.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Laura, thank you so much. It's been so inspiring to listen to you today. Congratulations on your 6 or 7-ish journey. I wish you the best on what's coming in 2025 and the years to come. I think your mission is incredibly inspiring and necessary today. So kudos to that, and sending you the best energy for all the resilience that is needed to change these conversations, to change these ideas, and to keep creating what matters. Thank you for joining us. Everyone, you will continue to listen Create What Matters. We're on the Women Empowered edition, listening to powerful stories, inspirational women talking about how they're breaking barriers and just sharing who they're becoming. So please subscribe. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and all of the other socials. And we'll continue to see you on the next one, and keep creating what matters. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.